Kia ora, hello, and welcome to Anyway, the podcast where I unpack the chaos of reality TV. I am your host, Natalie McMurray, coming to you from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Today, we're diving back into the Valley reunion, part 2. Everyone is heading back out onto the stage after lunch. I don't know what show Jesse thinks he's on, but for some reason he's wearing his tightest undies just in case they ask him to show them off. Just because you're not wearing your ugly, saggy grey underwear, that does not give you a free pass to drop trowel, Jesse. To quote Aunt Sassy, I don't need to see that. Apparently, neither does Zach, because he damn near chokes on his water at the mention of Jesse's undies. And he asked Jesse what he needed a $300,000 SBA loan for, which is a great question. He then blabbers on about the hikes that Michelle has been taking to talk about his loan to various people. He's completely deflecting from the question. We don't get an answer. Jesse calls Michelle a cheater and a liar, deflecting even more. And Lala says, you gotta stop calling her a liar, Jesse. I know that this wasn't Lala's intention, but by not saying both cheater and liar, she's inadvertently making it seem like Michelle is in fact a cheater. Did Michelle cheat on Jesse? I know he always says that she did, but I don't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. And I can't remember if she said that she did. Anyway, he's also calling Michelle a liar when he just lied by omission. What was the $300K loan for, Jesse? Expensive bottles of wine? I now need to know. Jesse got a $300,000 loan and he still can't even pay his daughter's health insurance, which is fucking embarrassing. Where is your paycheck for the show going? Use that. We're discussing Jesse's financial issues, and Lacey would like everyone to know that she would rather light herself on fire than bankroll a man. To be honest, I believe her. I don't think she's funding Jesse's lifestyle. I truly can't see her doing that. I think Jesse is lying about how much money he has to Michelle so that she will pay for shit. He's manipulating her. So now she probably has to pay for everything when it comes to their daughter. Lacey says that she hasn't experienced Jesse having financial problems. Michelle and Lacey are going back and forth on the issue, and all of a sudden, Kristen has turned into the demon from the movie Smile. The way she's leaning forward and looking at Lacey like, get him, bitch. I don't love that for her. I don't know what's going on with Kristen. I guess now that I'm thinking about it, maybe she's always been this way. But I do feel like she's on the wrong side of history with a lot of stuff this season. I definitely think she could have more empathy for the situation that Michelle is in. Lacey is trying to point out the misogyny of people saying that she's using Jesse to be on the show. But the thing is, we all know that she tried to audition to be on The Real Housewives of OC. So it doesn't exactly help your cause, Lacey. To be clear, I'm not saying I don't think Lacey and Jesse are in a genuine relationship. They definitely appear to be, but there are a few tidbits here and there that make people wonder about the authenticity of it. As Lala rightly points out, Lacey this season hasn't really been all that warm and loving to Jesse. Andy forces Jesse to tell Lacey that he loves her so he can see how she responds. She says she loves him too. It's pretty clear by the look on Michelle's face that she's super uncomfortable with their relationship. I think Michelle is jealous, and I don't mean that in a nasty way. I mean it in a way like she has said herself previously, saying it's not that she wants him back, but she wanted him to be that way for her when they were together. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think it does. Anyway, we move on to talk of Schwartz and Kiana. Andy asks if Schwartz wants kids. He says he does. So bad. In spite of the fact that Schwartz is basically a 40-something-year-old kid himself, I think he would make a pretty good dad. Although if Kiana is only 27, he may be waiting a while. Schwartz says that they have a 16-year age gap. And Andy tells us that he also has a 16-year age gap with his boyfriend. Schwartz holds his fist out to fist bump Andy. Too bad for him, he's sitting right down the end of a 4-meter couch, maybe even 5 meters. There's a long way. Did he really expect Andy to run down and fist bump him back? Who's to say? Schwartz tells Andy that Tom Tom is for sale, and the intellectual property right along with it. I'm not really sure who would want to buy that IP. What exactly is someone who is not Tom or Tom going to do with it? Would be a bit weird. The whole point of it was to bring in people who were fans of VPR, right? I guess a Vanderpump Rules fan could buy it and maybe host like marathons or trivia nights there. I don't know why I'm now investing my time and energy into a bar that's clearly going down the tubes. Anywho, not only does Zach not have a fridge, apparently him and Benji still have no furniture in their apartment. What's the deal with that? Brittany's like, you can go shopping in my garage for furniture if you'd like. An offer that seems less than appealing to me. Like, do I want to rummage around Jax's old bullshit? No. The answer is no. Zach talks about how much Brittany and Kristen have helped him since moving to LA, and they discuss the tough times that he's been through. Andy asks if he knows whether he wants to have kids. Ultimately, Zach says that he doesn't feel like he's in the position to raise a kid at the moment. I fully understand wanting to be stable generally and from a financial perspective before having children. But the old cliche of you're never ready to become a parent is true. I think Zach and Benji are really sweet together. They're one of the only healthy couples on the show. I'd like to see them have a kid. That would honestly be adorable and inspiring for a lot of people. During the break, we see Luke asking for more makeup, like more powder for his nose, which is a record scratch for me. Doesn't this man claim to hate everything to do with LA, including fame and celebrity? Come to think about it, why is he even on the show? I'm confused by everything this man says and does. And because I have watched the episodes of this show, unlike him, I now cannot stand the sight of him. Andy wants to know how co-parenting with Randall is going. Lala is basically like, ugh, Jesus, gross. But she says Ocean is thriving, which we love to hear. Andy says he wants to switch gears to Kristen and Luke. He starts by asking about their sex life, which I definitely do not want to hear about. Kristen lies to us all by saying they're having more sexy sex than they've ever had in their whole entire lives. Thou doth protest a little too much. Andy says you pressuring Kristen to have sex before she was ready postpartum was coming off as selfish to Luke. Andy? It was coming off as more than just a little selfish. More like selfish, disrespectful, abusive, manipulative, controlling. All of the above. Luke says he can see how it came across as selfish. He says he wasn't straight off the bat trying to pressure her at the 6-week point, and he thought he was putting in a good buffer on things. But all you need to do is talk to your partner to find out what the buffer is. It's not really something that you alone in your own mind should be just guessing. It's called communication. Danny says whoever came up with the 6-week rule should be fired. Watching these two idiots laughing about the 6-week stand-down period of the vagina really bums me out. Side note, I absolutely love the online speculation that someone took the springs out of Danny's seat on the couch. He does look much shorter than everybody else. Unfortunately for him, I think he is actually just that short. Maybe his torso is the shortest part of his body? I don't know. Anyway, Andy wants to know why Luke sleeping on the couch triggers Kristen so much. She explains that it feels like rejection to her. Andy asks how many nights he does it now, and Kristen very quickly and defensively says, well, not anymore. These two are giving me a very weird vibe. They talk about couples therapy, and apparently Kristen tells us their therapist told them that they are too volatile for couples therapy. What in the what? What does that mean? What, literally, what does that mean? Isn't that what therapy is for? To make the couple less volatile? I get that fighting in couples therapy is not conducive to resolving problems, but surely the therapist should have tactics to deal with that and then move on to a better place. I don't know what's happening with the couples therapists on Bravo. Not that long ago, we had Kyle and Amanda's therapist telling them that they hated each other, which again came as news to literally no one. But still, as a therapist, it's kind of your job to steer them in a direction of, oh, I don't know, not hating each other and not being volatile. Basically, at this point, I feel like I'm asking the therapists to become miracle workers. Andy now asks Luke if he had waited to propose, would he still have done it after meeting pregnant Kristen? He's now a bumbling idiot. Instead of just saying no and being honest, he's struggling for words. He says, well, I wouldn't break up with her. As if that's some kind of consolation for Kristen. Let's give the man a round of applause for not breaking up with his pregnant girlfriend, everybody. Good for you, Luke. What a fucking gent. Andy asks Luke and Kristen if they're happy. Kristen kind of stutters her way through a yes, and Luke gives a very half-hearted head nod. Jasmine is all, yikes. Literally, nobody believes them, myself included. I want Kristen to be happy, but I don't see that with Luke, unfortunately. Anyway, moving on to the feud that finds itself wedged between the Bocos and the Capernas. I've definitely found myself more endeared to Janet this season, but I do feel like I've just gone 10 steps backwards on that. Learning that Janet and Jason had the demon Jax Taylor over for Christmas at their house. What in the actual fuck is happening? I'm gonna need more details. I'm sorry. Like, why? And how? And what? Turns out Jax asked them if he could come over. Janet immediately said no. She then spoke to Brittany about it, and Brittany said that it may actually be helpful for her to have him at theirs so that he's not annoying the fuck out of her, which actually makes sense. Andy is so messy when he asks Danny how it felt to have Janet compare him to Charles Manson, when he knows that's not what happened. I see you getting your hands dirty, Andy. What I will say is that these people have enough issues without you stoking the fire, okay? Danny thinks that because Seth Rogen said that he hasn't seen Darkside Danny on Watch What Happens Live a year ago, that Darkside Danny doesn't exist. A, who cares whether Seth Rogen knows he exists or not? The audience can see it with their own fucking eyes. And B, Seth Rogen told Danny to keep his name out of his mouth, which is hilarious. He's lucky that Seth Rogen even knows who he is. Fucking what? Nia says that her and Danny have implemented some more support in their life. She says that they've hired an au pair. I can only imagine what that au pair is seeing. Definitely Darkside Danny, I'm sure. Is it just me, or has Danny had some kind of facelift? Some kind of face work? His face looks different to me. What's going on? What is going on there? Is he less wrinkly? Did he lose weight? I don't know. Nia is trying to tell us that Danny is super supportive towards her. Lala points out that if that's the case, it's definitely not coming across because Nia seems like she's in it alone. Andy is like, yeah, let's talk about the fact that we saw you trying to eat a sandwich on 2 separate occasions in the same episode. And you couldn't because Danny was incapable of looking after his own child. Both of them are basically like, oh, he was just tired and cranky. You know how it is. Yeah, I bet you do get tired and cranky looking after 4 kids. I do with just one. But like, rein it in when you're on TV and your wife needs a bit of help eating a damn sandwich. Danny admits that he was a nightmare, but he also brings up every excuse under the sun to justify his behavior. He was tired because of the kids. He was sleep deprived. He was stressed and anxious because of Janet and the conflict of it all. How about just say you were an asshole? Period. End of story. Andy says there's an argument that could be made that perhaps this is the way that things are in your household when no one else is around. To which Lala gives us the line of the night. She says, yeah, we saw into the window. You forgot to close the blinds. Because Danny seemed comfortable speaking to Nia that way, and Nia knew how to deal with it. I would say Lala hit the nail on the head with that one. Meanwhile, as all this chatter is happening, Jasmine is getting more and more annoyed about Danny bringing up how tired and stressful it is to have children. She voices this frustration, and basically everybody jumps down her throat. While I understand where Jasmine is coming from, I'm not really sure this is the right audience for that kind of complaint. You're surrounded by parents, Jasmine. Having kids is tiring and stressful a lot of the time. I don't think that stress and tiredness should be an excuse for shitty behavior, but also it can get the better of you. Jasmine says, you guys maybe not want to have children because of how miserable you all are. Clearly, Jasmine isn't alone in that sentiment because, as I've pointed out before, a lot of people watching are calling this show birth control. So, yikes. Andy brings up the fact that Kristen and Luke were supposed to appear on a Watch What Happens Live episode together a few weeks ago. But Luke bailed and Kristen ended up doing it by herself. Andy says that Luke told the people at Watch What Happens Live that he wanted nothing to do with the situation if Kristen was involved. Apparently their nanny was out of town, so they were going to take Kaya, or Kristen suggested to take Gaia, and Luke was acting like a fucking baby about taking the baby, essentially. These two are clearly super happy together. Woof. Anyway, Andy wants to know if all the hate that Danny has been getting has helped him empathize with what Janet went through with all the hate and death threats online. And does he regret participating in that hate? He says absolutely. He also received death threats. While I'm not a fan of Danny, obviously, I in no way, shape, or form condone that shit. I don't know who is out there sending death threats to people on TV, but those people need to get a little fucking perspective in their lives. And perhaps several hobbies. Whoever is taking reality TV that seriously has issues, which is obvious given the behavior. Both Danny and Janet apologize to each other for what they've been through with online trolling, respectfully. Janet says it's super dark and she wouldn't wish it upon anybody. Towards the end of the episode, we're discussing Danny's shitty behavior on the night of the drag pageant. Andy wants to know if Danny would have acted any differently if one of the guys had come and spoke to him instead of Lala. He says yes, because he doesn't know Lala that well. Everybody was apparently horrified watching it back. I'm still confused how no one but Lala heard it at the time. Was the house really that big? I don't know. Michelle is talking about how people are afraid to go up against Danny and Nia because of what happened to Janet last season. And a lot of confusion started when Michelle was trying to mediate what people were saying because she was stuck in the middle. Lala says that she understands Danny's confusion, with half of the people saying you shouldn't drink, and then the other half being like, drink however much you like. And I do agree that it could be confusing, but as I've discussed many a time over this season, the discussion shouldn't necessarily be about the drinking of it all. Perhaps Danny shouldn't drink, but that's up to him at the end of the day. Nobody can force him. It's all about his behavior while he's drinking. He needs to reassess his behavior. And he speculates what Danny would have acted like had he not been drinking in all the instances that he acted like an ass throughout the season. Danny says that he wonders too, and for that reason, apparently, according to him, he has stopped drinking since filming Wrapped. The only problem with that is, we know Danny is a compulsive liar when it comes to his own drinking. So you'll have to excuse me when I do not believe what he is saying. Everyone starts making ambiguous comments about Jasmine's wedding, and I guess someone caused a kerfuffle. Seems like we may have needed Andy and a camera at that wedding. Anyway, that's it for this week. If you enjoy anyway, please rate, like, subscribe, give me your feedback. I'm open to it all. You can tell me you hate me. You can tell me you love me. You can tell me about how your dream as a child was to become president of Mars. Any form of dialogue is much appreciated. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya.